Okay, am I on? Hi everyone, Mickey Jacobs here. Hi. I always need a validation that I do not speak to myself. So please shoot me a little chat thingy here, just so I make sure that you are on and you can see me good and hear me good. And then I can go ahead and start with the teaching. Today, kind of important topic, so I'm hoping you're going to listen and be able to also practice my advice that I was teaching to teach. So I chose the topic about anxiety and about fear of death because obviously I come across a lot of people that experience that nowadays, specifically now more than ever before, meaning a few years ago, I really did not come across so many people that had that. And unfortunately, more and more people express to me, and I mean a lot, whether it is in my work as a medium, when I work in when I do my volunteer work as a hospital chaplain, and just kind of even friends and family, frankly, that very much fearful of death. And often that come hand in hand with anxiety or panic attack. I hope I'm not speaking to myself. So I thought I'm going to open a topic. I know we had a topic about fear a few months ago sometime, but I'll be focused a little bit more about fear of death, this specific, and advice as to how to overcome it. Who is, Denise and Mark, thank you for shooting that. Hi Jojo, thanks for coming to the webinar. So obviously the first and foremost, the biggest advice that I would give people about the fear of death is growing spiritual awareness. Now you've heard me say that about different topics over the time of Angel Chat, or me teaching you about different spiritual topics, but the fear of that specifically would be more exaggerated or more focused, on people that are not spiritual, which I'm going to get into it a little bit more as to what does that mean more specifically. So like with any other topic, obviously the more spiritual we are, the more we are able to have a picture, have a view of the bigger picture of our natural state as a energy being, meaning as souls, as to our purpose here on planet Earth. What are we doing here? The more knowledgeable you are about spiritual concept, the more you are aware, as you know, I was teaching in previous, webinar, as to the specific time of death, meaning when we exit planet Earth, as well when we enter to planet Earth to experience life in a different body. It's quite designed by the soul, or rather pre-designed by our soul, meaning there is a reason as to when we enter, as it's come to the precise moment that our soul chooses to enter to a new life, as well, of course, as when we exit or when we die. So when I use the phrase that you can conquer or minimize the fear of death by relying more on spiritual concepts, such as the time of death that is designed, meaning that the more information you are, the more you believe, the more you live life as a spiritual human being. That include knowing that when we leave this planet is very much designed by the soul, that will have the fear of death. Now, naturally, fear in general, it's kind of a byproduct of who we are as human beings. We kind of, as I often refer to it, as a fearful species. So specifically the fear of death. So it's someone to have a little bit of a fear of death. It's kind of common, of course, meaning we will always have that inner nagging, annoying fear of leaving this planet, of course, because it's just byproduct of who we are as people. And of course, we have loved ones as well, specifically people who have kids, very much afraid for them to die, because then they reflect on the unfortunate time that obviously it's illusionary at the time where they're going to leave their kids. So a little bit fear of death is kind of normal. And the reason I say that, because as for myself, although I was able to work mostly about my fear of death, sometimes indeed it's surfacing up. Like any other fear, of course. And over the years, I came across a lot of people that are quite spiritually evolved. And then when I would discuss specifically fear and more focus on fear of death, they also claim that it's always sometimes there, of course. So accepting that we are fearful species is just one byproduct of who we are, part of our mind, of our brain, more specifically fear of death, would also help you, because the more harsh we are on our fear, the more we kind of rigid about it. So let's let go a little bit and accept that if you have some fear, specifically fear of death, that is indeed normal. The problem is, as I said at the beginning of today's webinar, that more and more people are obsessed with fear of death. And that has to do with a lot of the shape of our planet at the moment. This is a very harsh time to live on our planet. You do not need a webinar. I mean, you can open the television, unfortunately, and see all the negativity and madness and violent. And, so a lot of us human beings are scattered and confused, and then immediately reflect that on us. And then all fears coming up, specifically with the most common fear, which is the fear of death. So again, is the time of where we live right now, the harshness of the planet, what we see in the television, media, and a lot of people, they come to me, and when they see all this terror attack, especially when they kind of one after the other, unfortunately, as we experienced a few months ago, it's like it does awaken their own fear of death or the fear of death of their loved ones. So the point is that 2015, where we live right now, some aspect of fear of death will be there, as long as you don't let it entertain you too much. And by not letting it stay there too much, or being obsessed about fear of death, which once again a lot of people do, is go back and rely about spiritual concept, specifically that the design time as to when we leave this planet, it's absolutely pre-planned by the soul. As you've heard me talk previous topics, that sometimes real accidents do happen, of course, meaning if we are stupid, if we are reckless, indeed we can and will cut our life short. So, but for the most part, if we somewhat spiritual, if we are not reckless, if we watch our well-being, and the more spiritual we are, the more we kind of vibrate in a little bit more higher frequency. So therefore, rarely that we will attract to us any form of accidents. So not only if we value life and we are aware, or we use our free will wisely to aware and be cautious with remaining alive, obviously, then we also get help from the universe, and usually for the most part we remain quite safe. So the point is that, once again, when you truly and authentically believe in the concept that your soul indeed pre-designed the time that you leave planet Earth, it can and will help your fear of death. The reason I use the phrase authentically, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people come my way and tell me, I know my loved one didn't die. I know they're in the spirit world. I know that we go into the spirit world and we don't really die. So I hear that a lot of people that say that, but really don't quite believe authentically as to the concept. So again, the more spiritual you are, the more you absolutely rely on your own intuition. You don't have to wait for some spiritual teachers, because really what I teach is nothing short with what you already have all the information. All I do as a spiritual teacher is kind of awakening your own information that is within you, within your higher self, within the soul, within the body. So rely on that. meaning the more spiritual you are, the more you know that indeed every big event in our life, including the exit and enter planet Earth, is designed by the soul. So why does that help you? Because you're going to go when you're going to go. I mean, that's the whole point. And when you come to that point and you know that when your time to go for whatever reason, for whatever time, whether you are 20 or 80, then you're going to go when you're supposed to go, because it really is something that is designed. So that intuitive knowingness, authentically, when you really know and believe in that spiritual concept, at least for me, and the people that I teach, really does help to minimize the fear of death. Because essentially what you say when those thoughts of fears come up about fear of death is really what you tell yourself is, it's my time to go, it's my time to go. And I found that very releasing. I found that acceptance of saying out loud, if that's the time that I'm supposed to go, then I guess that I'm supposed to go. It's true, that is really what that spiritual concept is about. But just that saying it out loud, meaning face your fear and death. And I actually teach people to say it out loud. Then if I'll die, I'll die. Try it out if you or someone else that really experience a constant fear of death or thoughts of fear of death. It really is quite soothing and quite effective when you just say it like that, because essentially it's considered just release and acceptance. So now you say that, of course, in addition, as we said a few minutes ago, is you, of course, value life. Of course, you can say that all day long, that you go when you're supposed to go, but if you're silly and reckless, once again, due to free will, the protection of your guardian angel would not be able to do much. And really, it's called karma or consequences, of course. That's just common sense. So once you know you take care of yourself, once you know you value life, and I mean also inner care, whether it is take care of the body, obviously test the body, make sure the body is balanced and in harmony for the most part. You don't have to, everything have to be perfect, of course, but you know that you are doing the right thing, and we all know what the right thing is, whether it is to eat healthy and all the healthy lifestyle that come with it. So a fear of death is really illusionary, because if you are 40 or 50 and not 85 or 89 or 90, well, that's maybe a little bit more legitimate. If people that are that age that are fear of death, then again, it's obviously technically just an illusion byproduct of the mind to be fearful, because we are fearful for the most part, and secondary, the fear of death. Because we also species that we just don't want to live. We don't want to live our life, no matter how good or bad, we just don't want to live. We don't want to leave our loved one. So once again, accept it and kind of let it go, knowing that that's the way it is. So the combination of understanding we live as we're supposed to live planet Earth, as well as actually making sure that you do value life, that can help the fear of death, absolutely. The second spiritual concept that also helps to minimize or not let fear of death rule or govern your life or become obsessed with it is to trust in the concept of our team of spirit, as you know by my teaching, that I call those group of spirits that accompany us, because we do have a protection with, that we do not see. We do have our guardian angel. We have powerful beings that always with us, additional beings that are with us, that protect and watch over us. So when you have a fear of that kind of rising up, I know that it's very helpful to call or pray, if you will, to the archangels, to your team of spirits. Hopefully by then, which why I started the webinar with, is to grow spiritually, practice spiritual exercise, meditate, so you kind of, you with you, connect to your higher self, connect to spirits, the universe, quiet the mind, so you disidentify a little bit with life, with worry, with fear. And the more you meditate in a consistent manner, the more you're able to view your life, you more be able to remain grounded with those same spiritual concepts, as opposed to just allow all your thought is to be consumed with your life on earth, which usually that would include fear and worry, all kind of worry, and then that's when fear of death would enter your life. So remain, continue to practice spiritual exercise such as meditation. Read about, spiritual materials are not always for more information, because I often tell people is to read about the spirit world, read about life after death, read about our natural state as souls, meaning that is the bigger picture is what we're doing here. Because sometimes people tell me, I have all the information. It's not for information, it's for awakening your memory, which is exactly what I'm doing with those webinars, which why I use the phrase that what I teach you is nothing, I don't know more than you do. It just, I was awakening and reminder of that information, and now I'm hopefully trying to remind you. So spiritual books or seminars or courses online or retreats, all those activities would remind you of who you are, of who you really are, not who you are just this lifetime, of who you are as a soul, of who you are as an immortal energy being, which why after a webinar or reading, or when you read good spiritual book, pay attention to how you feel. You kind of, disidentified, with your life, with planet Earth. And then, of course, as time go by, life rush in, ego rush in, fears rush in. So the more you practice spiritual activities, such as meditation, the more you read, the more you learn, the more you study, whether it is classes like mine and other spiritual teacher, the more you are connected to who you are. And who you are is a fearless being. This is not some cliche phrase sentence. We really are fearless. Remember why we are here. We are here because it's just an effective school. You know that I've mentioned that every single topic I teach you, so you know what you're doing here. Everything else is just really a game, an illusion, as it's some culture call it, a play. Often I've been described by spirit when they were teaching me, those concepts, is kind of like we come in here and we actors in a play where in fact the screenplay is written prior to coming to planet Earth. So it is kind of a game, and it just happened that this life, you're a woman or a man with certain life circumstances, but what's matter is who you really are within you. Within us, meaning it is with us. We don't have to go outside and look for it. We don't have to buy it with money or work or study. It is within us, meaning that fearless spark of who we are is within us. And of course, once again, the more spiritual we are, the more you are able to reconnect yourself with that fearless energy within you. And that's when fears start to go away, as well as fear of death. So I'm hoping you understand as to why I started today webinars as I do with any webinar, because those are spiritual teaching, as to why I always start with, you absolutely must live life in a spiritual way, continue to rise, educate yourself about who you are, not as a human being. It's enough of that. We do that all day long, who we are, the personality, the interaction with other people, who we are as souls, because the more you know, the more you awaken that spiritual amnesia, as you know, I call it, that all of us have at the time of death. We forget who we really are, and we think that Mickey is really who I am, who I am, where in fact it's not. It's just a temporary form. So the more you remember, the more you awakening that who you are, and fear absolutely can get to a point that it's very, very minimum. Once again, no matter how spiritual we are, we still within the flesh, the higher self, or the soul energy is within the body. We have the mind, we have the external, stimulation, as I mentioned, specifically nowadays with wars and terror and politics and negative, media information. So it will always be there, but it wouldn't stick too long. Once you connect, once you grow, once you keep it consistency, you cannot meditate once every 2 weeks and expect that to happen. You have to have it, which why I use the phrase spiritual lifestyle. You have to have it every single day. Once you do that, you kind of side more with who you are spiritually speaking, with your soul, for lack of better word, and you kind of get a little bit more further away from your personality, from who you are. And if fear happened to rise, if fear happened to come, then you immediately rely on all your information, all your faith, essentially. That's what it is. Faith on spirits that help you, faith on the spiritual concept, that if it's not your time to go, it's not, which why you here, obviously, because your soul is not your time to go. As to when you're gonna go, we don't know. The soul knew when for you to exit planet Earth. Is it always logic to us? No, it's not always logic to us, because logic means that all of us gonna die at age of 85 calmly in our sleep, and it just does not happen, because you cannot think about it with your mind. So when we exit planet Earth, sometimes we come to planet Earth to a very short incarnation, sometimes it's very long, sometimes we come to planet Earth and we go back home or die in our sleep, and sometimes the exit or the process to leave planet Earth is very difficult. So, but there is always a wise thinking behind when we leave planet Earth and how we leave planet Earth, a wise thinking of your mind. So trust it, know it to be so. You cannot control it. The only part that you can control about your death is to make sure that you are responsible for your life, responsible for your body, and responsible for your spiritual awareness, spiritual growth. When you cover all those ingredients, if you will, when you are spiritual and you really believe in that concept, then fear of death will rise bits and pieces once in a while, but really for the most part it will go away. Another thing, obviously, is when I use the phrase faith, is prayer, is God. I mean, the creator that obviously created us, meaning praying to God, bringing the phrase God, for whatever words you want to use, it is also very powerful, because knowing that there is that powerful, massive energy, out there that that govern, that create everything. To me, honey, to me, it's very soothing. So you do pray, you do bring up God, you do, when you have a fear and you use the phrase God and you leave it, you kind of surrender, a really powerful phrase that I know that I often tell people, teach people, is to bring up God and say, help me let go. Just help me let go, whether it is let go of any fear or let go of fear of death. It is powerful because the phrase itself, the word God, is powerful. So bring up the word God, bring up the prayers, for him to watch us over you. Now you also know that by my teaching that God, if you will, that energy is actually not involved with when we enter planet Earth and when we exit planet Earth. He is just there watching all of us unconditionally and equally. But he did create those, if you will, program that it is up to us, the freedom to decide when to enter and when to exit, as it's related to our growth, as it's related to our overall evolution. Nonetheless, he is there, of course, and really the phrase God or whatever other, again, if some people call it other phrases, to kind of release fear to him. As I say, whether you say, help me let go of the fear, help me, watch over me, you can call on him, you can call on your team in spirit, you can call the Archangel Michael often help us with fear. He is the Archangel of courage. He gives us courage specifically when we over fearful people. So when you kind of leave it, in addition to just really tell yourself, well, if it's my time to go, it's my time to go, really just like that, then you will come down, you will relax. So again, the overcoming fear and fear of death is kind of like a program, if you will. It's not a one thing, it's not an overnight type of a thing, it's a plan or a program. So you have kind of a plan that you can rely on when you have an intense feeling of fear of death. And people do, I mean, people come to me and it's consume all their thoughts, which is very sad and very, very powerful. So when I tell them plan, when you realize, first of all, you also know that by my teaching over the time, that being aware of thought, any thought, in this specific, we're talking about fear, but any thought, negative, obviously negative thought, not positive thought, but when you're aware of any negative thought, weaknesses, if you will, and it can be fear, it can be your anger, it can be your reaction, awareness, period, kind of take the power away from it, because you don't let it run loose and go crazy and cause havoc in your mental state. So when you're aware, when you tell yourself, right there where it surfaces up, here it is, that fear again, and you have a plan as to what to do. You meditate, you call on God, you call on spirits, you rely on your spiritual concept, you say out loud, if I'll die, then I'll die. It's almost like you take the worst fear and just said, whatever, if I... look who joined the webinar. Oh, they don't have fear of death. They don't actually have fear of death. How lovely is that? So, do you see Ladybug? Ladybug. So, yes, so have yourself that plan. And again, apply. The reason I also say fear and anxiety, because naturally anxiety, which is a very, very sad phenomenon that I see in more and more people, that and you know, the fascinating thing about anxiety, that I do not think that you can relate to someone that actually suffer from an anxiety or panic attack unless you had it yourself. And the reason I can relate to it, because I did have it. How long ago was it, honey? 7 years, 8 years? Yeah, I would say probably about 7, 8 years that I experienced anxiety attack. And you know, with the work I do, a lot of things that I teach, I actually by design experience in order for me to relate to people. And I know how awful just awful is anxiety attack, because the person really does think they're going to die, where in fact it's all it start and finish with the mind bombarding the body. So anxiety attack triggered by a thought. So that's why I kind of the topic of the webinar was fear of death and anxiety attack, because of course they go together. So again, the anxiety attack also have a plan. Otherwise, if you don't, it would just, you know, cause havoc, and a lot of people do. So as far as how I got over the anxiety attack, I kind of did what I'm teaching you, which is, of course, I was so blessed to get those tools from spirits. Whether it is about fear or other fears that I had. Sometimes I remember I wouldn't even know what fear I have. All I know is that something triggered the mind, and then all that rush, immense fear that kind of flush the body and you rush to the hospital and nothing wrong with you. It really is truly awful anxiety attack. So have a plan. If you have any fearful thought, more specifically fear of death, do rely, make a plan, practice it. Everything is matter of practice. If you don't practice spirituality, if you do it once in a blue moon, it's absolutely like expecting a toned body and never visit the gym. It just does not work. It's need to practice again and again. And as you do it again and again, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, obviously the fear would kind of lessen and lessen. And kind of disappear for the most part, as I said. So, so again, to be able to kind of understand what somewhat with an anxiety go through, it's almost like you don't understand how powerful a fear can be that kind of bombarded or scare the body, where people are just kind of frozen. But there is a way out of it. And you know my typical say when I often tell people, if I did it, you do it. I say that often in event, whether it is the ability to channel spirits. For those of you that know my story, I did not born a medium. We all born a medium, but I did not practice when I was young. I was 33 years old, and through hard work and dedication, I learned how to quiet the mind and therefore heal spirit. So that's what I mean by if I did it, you did it. So if you suffer from immense fear, then see if you can follow those specific advice, because that really should help you. I also find out really that you can also, if you prepare, you can also use music. I mean, I know that a lot of people tell me that, they do use music, and that's kind of help them soothe music, which is unbelievable, fascinate healer, if you will, kind of lift our spirit up, if you will, which why a lot of people prior to their meditation session, they do kind of quiet the mind, and use music, which I used to actually first listen to music, and then I kind of did my meditation. So let be a part of your plan. If you are someone that have anxiety attacks or fear of death, in addition to all the tools that I taught you today, I was teaching you today, have some sort of a music perhaps ready. Obviously soothing music. You don't want a music that would bombard your brain even more, but music that relate to you. Each one of us kind of can relate to other music, but music that relate to you, meditation music, if you will. Drums I found to be very good, kind of soothing. So see if you can also be prepared as a part of your plan to get rid of the fear, is to have a music kind of ready. And by the time you have all that, you will absolutely get rid of the fear of death. So I hope that helped you a little bit. I didn't tell you at the beginning to shoot a question and ask me. So, but I just, I believe that I come across a lot of people that follow that plan, if you will, against their fear or fear of death. And I get a lot of feedbacks that indeed they are better with their fears, because to have life that is governed by fear is more kind of an existence instead of living. And the problem with fear, that is energy, of course, everything energy, like, energy of anger or rage. Fear, it's energy, and if you don't discipline it, if you don't bring another plan instead of that fear, then it will just grow in energy, which why people that have anxiety attack, if they don't care for it, whether it is a spiritual plan, a therapy, sometimes I suppose people can take meditation for it, medication for it. If you don't have a plan to stop it, then like anything, things would either move forward or move backward, and it will grow and it will get worse until it's completely govern your life, which why I chose, of course, today's topic, because I do see it out there, because our planet is so harsh. So I hope you enjoy it. I thank you for joining me today. I will see you next time. And if you have any question, you can shoot me an email if you didn't, if you were not thinking about it today, and I will do my best to answer the question. So take care. Thank you for coming. Lots of love to you all. Take care and try to be fearless and follow the advice that I was teaching you. So take care. Bye.